Welcome to Stoic Habit Builder, the place where we turn timeless Stoic wisdom into daily habits that make us stronger, calmer, and more resilient. I'm so glad you're here today, because together, we're building not just knowledge, but a way of life. Have you ever noticed how noisy the world has become? Everywhere you go, someone is trying to speak louder, post more, show off more, hoping that volume alone will earn them respect, attention, or love. But the truth is, the louder people get, the easier it is to tune them out. What truly captures attention is not noise, but silence. Not the kind of silence that feels empty or awkward, but the silence that radiates strength, confidence, and self-control. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that real power doesn't come from shouting your worth into the world. It comes from embodying it so deeply that you don't have to say a word. Think about it. Some of the most magnetic people you've ever met weren't necessarily the ones talking the most. They were the ones who walked into a room and carried a presence you could feel, calm, collected, grounded. Without lifting their voice, they commanded respect. Without asking for it, they drew people in. That's the paradox of silence. While others exhaust themselves trying to be seen, the person who is silent, but centered, becomes unforgettable. Why? Because silence leaves space. It leaves room for mystery, for intrigue, for imagination. People lean in. They want to know more. And in that moment, silence speaks louder than words ever could. The Stoics remind us, your calm is your power. Your composure is your magnetism. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone by being the loudest in the room. In fact, when you no longer feel the need to explain, defend, or boast, you begin to embody something far more attractive: quiet strength. And here's the key. This isn't about being shy, withdrawn, or cold. It's about learning how to let your presence do the talking. It's about carrying yourself in a way that says, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and I don't need to shout it. That kind of energy is rare, and rare is always magnetic. So in this video, we're going to uncover the habits that make you silently attractive. The kind of habits that don't require you to change who you are, but instead reveal the strength and charisma you already carry within. Because when you master the art of silence, you'll realize your quiet presence can light up a room more powerfully than any noise ever could. 1. Authenticity. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it can be to wear a mask every single day? To say what people want to hear, to fit into a group, to hide your real thoughts because you're afraid of judgment? Many of us do it without even realizing. We change our tone, our opinions, even our values, just to blend in. But here's the truth. The most magnetic people in the world aren't the ones who are perfect actors. They're the ones who are real. They're authentic. They know who they are, and they don't apologize for it. And that's exactly what the Stoics understood thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." What does that mean? It means stop trying to prove yourself. Stop trying to convince people you're good enough, and simply live it. Live your values. Walk your talk. That's what draws people to you, not polished words, but consistent action. Think about it. When you meet someone who is authentic, you feel it immediately. You don't sense them trying to manipulate your opinion, or impress you, or chase your approval. They're just grounded in who they are. And strangely, that's what makes them so attractive. Because authenticity is rare in a world full of masks. I remember a mentor once told me this. If you live for applause, you'll die when the crowd goes silent. And he was right. When your sense of worth depends on others, you'll always be chasing validation. But when you live authentically, when your actions reflect your deepest values, you become free. You become untouchable. Authenticity isn't about being rude or blurting out every thought you have. It's about alignment. Aligning your words with your beliefs, your actions with your principles. It's about standing firm in your boundaries, saying no when you need to, and pursuing passions that truly matter to you, not what the crowd says is trendy. And here's the beautiful part. Authenticity naturally attracts the right people into your life. The ones who value you for who you are, not for the mask you wear. You won't need to beg for attention because your quiet confidence will do the speaking for you. So remember this first habit. Authenticity is your superpower. Don't waste your energy trying to fit into places you were never meant to belong. Instead, live so honestly and so deeply in alignment with your values that your presence itself becomes magnetic. That is the silent strength of a Stoic life. 2. Style. Let's talk about style. Now, when I say that word, some people immediately think of expensive brands, flashy outfits, or chasing the latest trends. But here is the thing. Stoicism doesn't reject the importance of how we present ourselves. It simply reframes it. The Stoics taught that everything we do should be done with intention, and style is no exception. Your style isn't about trying to impress strangers or keeping up with what the world says is fashionable this week. It's about alignment. It's about asking yourself, does the way I dress, the way I carry myself, truly reflect who I am? Because whether you realize it or not, your outward appearance communicates your inner world. Think about someone you've met who seemed completely comfortable in their own skin. They weren't necessarily dressed in designer clothes or following trends, but something about them just felt right. Their style matched their energy. Their presence and their appearance were in harmony. That's what makes style powerful. It's not about noise. It's about authenticity expressed through simplicity. Marcus Aurelius didn't wear flashy robes to prove his authority as emperor. His power wasn't stitched into his clothing. It radiated from his character. The Stoics remind us that if your value comes only from what you wear, then you've built your life on something fragile. But if your style is a reflection of your character, then it becomes an extension of your strength. Personally, I've noticed something. When I dress with intention, whether it's a simple shirt, a clean pair of shoes, or something that feels truly me, I carry myself differently. I speak with more confidence. I feel more grounded. And people pick up on that. Because style isn't about the price tag, it's about the story it tells. Ask yourself this. What story is my style telling? Am I chasing validation by copying what everyone else is doing? Or am I presenting myself in a way that reflects my values? Remember, people are drawn to consistency. When your inner world and your outer appearance match, you become magnetic. You radiate a kind of quiet confidence that no expensive brand can buy. So don't underestimate style. Don't see it as shallow, but don't treat it as everything either. Instead, see it as a tool, a way to silently communicate who you are and what you stand for. Keep it simple, keep it intentional, and let it be an honest reflection of your authentic self. Because when you do, your style won't just be clothing, it will be a living expression of your character. 3. Body language. Before you even say a single word, you've already spoken. How? Through your body language. The way you stand, the way you look someone in the eye, the way you carry yourself. It all sends a message, louder than most of us realize. Think about posture. When you walk into a room slouched over with your eyes down, you're silently telling the world that you're unsure of yourself. But when you stand tall, shoulders back, grounded in your space, you communicate something entirely different. You're saying, I respect myself, I know my worth. And people feel that instantly. Eye contact is another powerful signal. Too little, and you seem distant or insecure. Too much, and you risk coming across as aggressive. But the right kind of eye contact, steady, warm, engaged, creates connection. It shows that you're present, that you're actually listening, and that you see the person in front of you as human, not just background noise. And then there's the smile. Not the fake one you put on for a photo, but the genuine smile that comes from being comfortable in your own skin. That small act has the power to break walls, to turn a stranger into a friend, to shift the energy of an entire room. The Stoics believe that our outer presence reflects our inner world. If your mind is chaotic, it shows up in restless movements, nervous habits, darting eyes. But when your mind is calm, your body naturally expresses confidence. That cultivating body language isn't about faking it. It's about aligning your posture, your gestures, your expressions with the strength you're building inside. I've seen this play out countless times. A colleague of mine years ago was soft-spoken, barely raised his voice in meetings. But the way he carried himself, tall posture, calm gestures, steady eye contact, he didn't have to fight for attention. People leaned in when he spoke. His body language did half the work for him. Here's the truth. People may forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And body language is the bridge. It's the silent signal that communicates confidence, respect, and warmth without uttering a word. So if you want to be silently attractive, start here. Stand tall, not just for how it looks, but because it reminds you of your own dignity. Look people in the eye, not to dominate, but to connect. Smile, not because you're supposed to, but because you mean it. Let your body reflect the calm strength within you, and watch how the world begins to respond differently. 4. Signature scent. There's something powerful about scent. Long before you say a word, long before you even make eye contact, people notice it. A scent can trigger memory, shift emotions, and leave an impression that lingers long after you've walked away. In many ways, your fragrance is a form of silent communication, a language without words. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They chase brands, they copy what's trending, or they drown themselves in something overpowering, hoping it will do the talking for them. But Stoicism reminds us of something simple. The best things in life are intentional, not excessive. Your scent should be chosen with purpose, not to scream for attention, but to align with who you truly are. Think about it this way. Your fragrance is like your personal signature. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be consistent, authentic, and true to your character. Maybe it's something light and refreshing that reflects your calm nature. Maybe it's something warm and deep that matches your steady confidence. Whatever it is, it should feel like an extension of your personality, not a mask you wear to impress. I'll never forget meeting someone years ago who carried a subtle scent, nothing fancy, nothing overly strong. But every time they entered the room, people noticed. Not because it was overwhelming, but because it was unmistakably theirs. That fragrance became associated with their presence, their energy, their calm confidence. That's what a signature scent does. It makes you memorable, without you ever having to force it. The Stoics would remind us that moderation is key. Too much is excess. Too little shows neglect. The sweet spot is balance, a fragrance that harmonizes with your personality, your environment, and your values. You don't need the most expensive bottle on the shelf. What you need is something intentional, something that feels like you. And here's the beauty of it. When your scent aligns with your true self, it becomes part of the silent magnetism we've been talking about. People won't always remember your exact words, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And scent is one of the fastest shortcuts to emotion and memory. So here's the takeaway. Don't chase brands, don't drown yourself in perfume, and don't wear something that isn't you. Instead, find that fragrance that quietly represents your essence. Make it your own, because when your presence and your scent are in harmony, you won't need to shout to be remembered. You'll leave a lasting impression simply by being there. 5. Manners, the hidden power of respect. Have you ever noticed how a simple gesture can completely change the way someone feels about you? Manners are not just about saying please or thank you. They are about something much deeper, respect. And respect is magnetic. Think about it. When someone truly listens to you, not just waiting for their turn to speak, but actually listening, you feel valued, don't you? That kind of presence is rare today. We live in a world full of distractions, where everyone's attention is divided between notifications, deadlines, and noise. But when you choose to pause, to look someone in the eye, to give them your full attention, you give them something priceless. The Stoics understood this long before us. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his meditations about the importance of treating others with dignity. Imagine that. An emperor with control over armies and nations, reminding himself daily not to let pride or power strip away his humanity. He practiced humility, patience, and respect, even toward those who disagreed with him. That's the essence of true manners. It is not about performance or empty words. It is about who you are when no one is watching. It's empathy in motion. It's noticing the small details, holding the door, offering a hand, or simply acknowledging another person's existence in a world that often feels indifferent. And here's the secret. When you practice genuine manners, people are naturally drawn to you, not because you're trying to impress them, but because kindness is irresistible. Respect builds trust. Empathy creates connection. And those connections? They open doors that no amount of force or ambition ever could. I've seen it happen countless times. The people who rise, the people who inspire others, they're not just the smartest or the strongest. They're the ones who make others feel seen, heard, and respected. That's what true manners do. So, the next time you interact with someone, don't just say the words out of habit. Mean them. Listen fully. Care genuinely. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the best way of avenging yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer. In other words, choose respect, even when the world around you doesn't. Because manners, when practiced with authenticity, are not just good etiquette. They are the foundation of wisdom, respect, and lasting impact. 6. Presence. There's something magnetic about a person who is fully present. Think about the last time you spoke with someone who gave you their complete attention. No phone in their hand, no wandering eyes, no rush to get to the next thing. Just you, in that moment. How did it make you feel? Valued, respected, heard. That is the quiet power of presence. Most people today live distracted. Their bodies are in one place, but their minds are running back to yesterday's mistakes or racing ahead to tomorrow's worries. And in doing so, they miss the gift of now, the one place where life is actually happening. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that presence isn't just about being polite. It's about taking ownership of what's in your control, the present moment. When you are fully present, you create a space of calm around you. You make the other person feel like they matter. And that's rare. In a world where everyone is rushing, your ability to slow down, to focus, and to give someone your undivided attention becomes a superpower. It builds trust, it builds respect, and it builds a kind of quiet influence that no amount of loud words can match. Presence is not about always having the perfect response. It's about listening to understand, not just listening to reply. It's leaning in, making eye contact, nodding not because you're supposed to, but because you're truly engaged. And when you live this way, people don't just hear you. They feel safe, they feel acknowledged, and they naturally gravitate toward you. Think about Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who carried the weight of an empire. In his writings, he constantly reminded himself to return to the present moment. If a man with the fate of millions in his hands knew the importance of presence, what excuse do we have? So the next time you're in a conversation, resist the urge to plan your reply or check your phone. Instead, ground yourself. Breathe. Look at the person in front of you and give them the rare gift of your full attention. That's how you not only live with Stoic strength, but also draw people closer without ever trying. Because presence, true presence, is not just attractive, it's unforgettable. And presence is just the beginning. Because once you've mastered being fully in the moment, the next step is about something even deeper, how you carry your silence. Yes, silence. In a noisy world, the way you handle quiet moments can speak louder than any words. Let us explore how Stoicism teaches us to turn silence into one of the most powerful forms of attraction. Through the power of mystery, why you shouldn't reveal everything. Think about the last time you met someone who didn't immediately share everything about themselves. Didn't that spark your curiosity? Didn't it make you lean in a little closer, wanting to know more? That's the quiet magnetism of mystery. In today's world, we've been conditioned to overshare. Our meals, our emotions, our struggles, broadcasted online for everyone to see. But the Stoics remind us, you don't need to display your entire soul for the world's approval. True strength lies in keeping certain parts of yourself private, sacred, and only shared with those who truly earn your trust. Mystery is not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It is about having enough self-respect to know that not every detail of your life needs validation from others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts, your inner world, are yours to guard and cultivate. When you choose to reveal less, you create space for people to wonder, to lean in, to want to know you beyond the surface. You're no longer chasing attention. You're allowing your quiet confidence to invite it naturally. Think about the leaders, mentors, or even friends you admire most. They probably didn't overwhelm you with every detail of their life in the first conversation. Instead, they revealed themselves slowly, with intention, and that's what made their presence unforgettable. So, practice sharing selectively. Let your actions speak louder than explanations. Let your values shine through your behavior, not just your words. The Stoics believed that true influence comes not from noise, but from the weight of character. And mystery, when used with authenticity, becomes a shield that protects your peace while also making your presence magnetic. Because at the end of the day, the less you feel the need to prove yourself, the more powerful and attractive you truly become. 8. Cultural wisdom, expanding your mind beyond borders. Have you ever noticed how the most magnetic people often carry a depth that goes beyond themselves? It's as if their words, their stories, their presence are layered with richness. That depth comes from something the Stoics valued deeply: wisdom, but not just any wisdom, cultural wisdom. When you open yourself to the art, the literature, the music, and the languages of different cultures, you're not just learning facts. You're shaping your soul. You start to see the world not just through your own lens, but through the eyes of countless others. Suddenly, a simple conversation with you feels different. People sense the depth behind your words. They feel that you're not speaking from ego, but from experience, empathy, and understanding. Think about it. Someone who has read widely, who can share a story from ancient Greece, connect it to a Japanese poem, or reflect on a lesson from African folklore. That person naturally breaks barriers in conversation. They don't just talk, they connect. They don't just impress, they inspire. The Stoics believed in constant self-education. Marcus Aurelius himself spent his life not just ruling, but learning, reading philosophy, studying history, engaging with ideas beyond Rome. He knew that true wisdom comes from seeing the bigger picture. And today, with the entire world at our fingertips, we have no excuse not to learn. A book, a documentary, a film, a conversation with someone from another culture, all of these are doors to greater understanding. Here's the truth. Cultural wisdom makes you magnetic because it makes you relatable. It shows that you value not just your own perspective, but the shared human experience. And when you carry that kind of depth, people don't just hear you, they feel you. So instead of scrolling endlessly or consuming shallow noise, invest in learning something meaningful from another culture. Expand your world. Because the broader your perspective, the stronger your presence becomes. And as the Stoics remind us, wisdom is not just for personal growth, it's for building bridges, breaking down barriers, and creating connections that truly matter. 9. The power of compassion, strength through empathy. If there's one quality that can instantly make you magnetic, it's compassion. Not the surface-level kind where you just say, "I'm sorry to hear that," and move on. I've been talking about the kind of compassion that actually feels what others are going through, the kind that leans in, listens, and acts. The Stoics believed we are all citizens of the same world, threads woven into one greater fabric. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was not just an emperor, but a man among men, connected to the joys and struggles of everyone around him. And that's what compassion does. It pulls you out of isolation and connects you to the community, to the human family. Think about it. In a world where most people are too distracted, too busy, or too focused on their own problems, the person who takes the time to truly listen stands out. When you don't just hear someone, but you understand them, you instantly create trust, and trust is magnetic. Compassion isn't about weakness or pity, it's about strength. It takes courage to step into someone else's pain. It takes humility to celebrate someone else's success without envy. And it takes character to act, to support, to encourage, to help lift the weight someone else is carrying. Maybe it's as simple as checking in on a friend who's been quiet. Maybe it's offering your time, your skills, or even just your presence to someone who needs it. These small acts ripple far beyond what you can see, because compassion has a multiplying effect. When you give it, others are inspired to pass it on. And here's the thing. When you live with compassion, you don't just impact others. You transform yourself. You become less anxious, less bitter, less focused on the noise of life. Why? Because your energy shifts from me to we. And in that shift, you find peace, belonging, and an inner strength that no one can take away. The Stoics remind us that to live well is to live in harmony with others. Compassion is the bridge. It's what turns strangers into allies and communities into families. And the more you practice it, the more magnetic your presence becomes. Because people are naturally drawn to those who make them feel seen, heard, and valued. 10. The power of laughter. Joy that connects us. Have you ever noticed how one moment of genuine laughter can instantly change the entire atmosphere in a room? Walls come down, tension disappears, and suddenly people feel closer, like they've known each other forever. That's the quiet but powerful magic of laughter. The Stoics often get misunderstood as being overly serious, but the truth is, they believed in living with joy, in finding lightness even in the middle of life's challenges. Marcus Aurelius wrote about savoring the present, and Epictetus reminded us that happiness isn't about having everything perfect. It asks about learning to appreciate the small, simple joys along the way. And what better example of that than laughter? Laughter is not just about jokes or funny moments. It's mindfulness in action. It pulls you out of worry about the future, out of regret from the past, and brings you right into the present moment. When you laugh, you're fully here, fully alive, and that energy is contagious. People are naturally drawn to those who can laugh, not because they don't take life seriously, but because they know how to balance the weight of life with the gift of lightness. Think about the people you love being around the most. Chances are, they're the ones who can laugh with you, not at you, not to cover up pain, but to genuinely share joy. That laughter builds connection. It's what turns strangers into friends, friends into family, and family into community. The Stoics remind us, a life well lived is not just about discipline and endurance. It is also about knowing when to let go, when to breathe, when to smile, and when to laugh. Because laughter is proof that no matter how heavy life gets, we can still find light. So don't underestimate the power of a laugh. Let yourself enjoy those moments. Share them with others. Because every time you do, you're not just lifting your own spirit, you're lifting the spirit of everyone around you. At the end of the day, laughter is more than just sound. It's medicine for the soul, a bridge for connection, and one of the purest reminders that life, no matter how difficult, is still worth smiling about. 11. Self-care, the responsibility you can't ignore. When most people hear the word self-care, they think of luxury spa days, expensive retreats, or long vacations. But here's the truth. Real self-care is not about indulgence, it's about responsibility. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. In fact, it's one of the greatest acts of service you can give to the people around you. Think about it. How can you give your best to your family, your work, or your community if your body is exhausted, your mind is cluttered, and your spirit is running on empty? You can't pour from an empty cup. The Stoics knew this well. They believed that caring for your body, your mind, and your soul wasn't optional. It was essential if you wanted to live with purpose and strength. Self-care starts with the basics. Eat in a way that fuels you, move your body so it stays strong, rest so you can recharge, and feed your mind with thoughts that make you wiser instead of weaker. These aren't luxuries. These are the foundations of a well-lived life. But self-care also means setting boundaries, knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It means protecting your peace from distractions, from negativity, and from anything that drains you of energy. Because if you don't protect your space, no one else will. Here's something most people forget. When you take care of yourself, you're not just doing it for you. You're doing it for everyone who depends on you. A healthier you means you show up as a better parent, a better partner, a better friend, a better leader. Taking care of yourself is the opposite of selfish. It is how you make sure you have the strength to care for others. So don't wait for a crisis to remind you to rest, to heal, or to refocus. Build self-care into your daily rhythm. Make it non-negotiable. Because your body, your mind, and your spirit are the tools through which you live. And if you take care of them, they'll carry you further than you ever imagined. The Stoics remind us, a strong life isn't just built by endurance. It is also sustained by renewal. And self-care is that renewal. 12. Independence. The freedom no one can take from you. When most people think about independence, they imagine financial freedom, breaking away from authority, or living life on their own terms. But the Stoics taught a deeper truth. Real independence is not about rejecting others. It acts about mastering yourself. True independence begins the moment you stop letting the world control your worth. You are not free if every compliment lifts you too high, or every criticism drags you too low. You are not free if you need constant approval to feel valuable. That's not independence, that's slavery to opinion. The Stoics believed independence is built on self-discipline. It's choosing your actions based on values, not impulses. It's being able to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and I will not trade it just to fit in with the crowd. And here's the thing, when you live this way, you discover a strength that no one can take away, because it doesn't depend on them. It comes from you. But independence doesn't mean isolation. The Stoics also understood that we are part of a larger community. Independence gives you the power to stand strong as an individual, while still contributing to something bigger than yourself. It's the balance between walking your own path and walking alongside others. Think about it. If you don't control yourself, someone else will. If you don't choose your values, society will hand you theirs. Independence is not just freedom. It's responsibility. It's the daily practice of owning your thoughts, your choices, and your direction. And here's the paradox. The more independent you become, the more valuable you are to others. Why? Because when you don't need constant validation, you can love without conditions. When you're not enslaved by fear of judgment, you can lead with courage. When you don't rely on the crowd, you can stand up for truth, even if you stand alone. So if you want true independence, don't just chase freedom from others. Build freedom within yourself. Master your habits, master your emotions, and master your mind. Because once you do, no storm, no critic, no failure, and no crowd can ever control you again. That is the independence the Stoics spoke of. Not freedom handed to you by society, but the unshakable freedom you create inside yourself. In a world where everyone is shouting for attention, silence has become rare, and that's why it's so powerful. The greatest attraction does not come from noise, flashy words, or endless self-promotion. It comes from depth, from authenticity, from the quiet strength of simply being present. Think about it. The people who leave the deepest impression on us are not always the loudest in the room. Often they are the ones who listen more than they speak, who act more than they boast, who carry themselves with calm confidence instead of restless energy. Their presence speaks louder than any performance ever could. The Stoics understood this. They taught that the most meaningful connections are not built through constant chatter, but through moments of stillness. When two people truly see each other without distraction, silence gives space for truth to surface. It allows sincerity to shine. It creates a depth that noise can never reach. And here's the paradox. Silence isn't empty. It's full of intention, of meaning, of power. When you let your life, your values, and your actions do the talking, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Your quiet consistency will always speak louder than empty words. Maybe this is why the most magnetic people are often the most grounded. They don't chase validation. They don't perform for approval. They live with such depth and calm that others are drawn to them naturally. They remind us that real strength doesn't have to shout. It simply stands. So if you want to create a lasting impact, don't just focus on what you say. Focus on what you embody. Build a life so steady, so rooted in truth, that even in silence you radiate strength and clarity. Let your life be the proof, because at the end of the day, it is not the noise of your words, but the silence of your actions that speaks the loudest. So now I want you to pause and ask yourself, what story is my life telling in silence? Because no matter where you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, you have the power to shape that story, starting today. If this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs the reminder that true strength is quiet, steady, and unshakable. And if you want to keep building these Stoic habits with me, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join our community of people committed to living with wisdom, courage, and calm. Remember this: the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who live with depth, with purpose, and with silence that speaks louder than words. Let your life be that voice.